South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg has gained in recent Iowa polling, but he faced scrutiny from his rivals, such as Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts.
The mayor just recently had a fundraiser that was held in a wine cave full of crystals and served $900 a bottle wine. Think about who comes to that.
According to Forbes magazine, I am literally the only person on this stage who's not a millionaire or a billionaire. So if this is important, this is the problem with issuing purity tests you cannot yourself pass.
Aisha, a night of fireworks out in California. What did that exchange tell us about the Democratic race and in particular Mayor Buttigieg and his place in this contest?
Well, it showed that Buttigieg is the one who is out in front, and that's why they're going after him, right? Elizabeth Warren is going after him because he is a threat to her. But it also showed that kind of the dangers of that. Like she went after him, but he also pointed out that even though she's trying to take this high ground of saying that she's not courting these big dollar donors like he is, he pointed out that she brought over money from her Senate campaign and that she has more money than he has, and all of these things that she's trying to set this purity test, and that he is actually the one that is he's not focused on just meeting these demands, he's focused on doing what he has to do to win this election. And so that's what he did. I don't know whether I feel like it came out as a wash for really the both of them. I don't know if either one of them really distinguished themselves. I do think Amy Klobuchar, when she was going after Buttigieg, I think she did stand out, and I think she was able to kind of point out some very key things. That one of the key things that he says is that he can win in the Midwest, and she's pointing out, you're a mayor.
Phil, when you're talking to your White House sources behind the scenes, and you're trying to get a read on Vice President Biden's performance, do they see him as fading or steady?
They see him as fading. They were very worried about Biden at the onset, and frankly, that's one of the reasons why President Trump is in this impeachment mess. And Trump has remained fixated on Biden because he continues to see Biden as a threat. But the people working for Trump, his political advisors, are increasingly of the belief that Biden may not be the Democratic nominee. They've been thinking a lot about Warren lately. They're keeping an eye on Budaj, who they've not totally figured out how to run against. Bloomberg looms as a bit of a threat. They realize Biden could be the nominee, but he's not the singular focus that he was at the onset of the Democratic primary race.
I actually think Amy Klobuchar, though, is the candidate who had the best night at the debate and the one who has the potential to sneak in the back door in Iowa. And she's a problem in terms of profile for the president, I think. A moderate woman from the upper industrial Midwest, the precise part of the country that the president needs to win again to win a second term. I'm not saying she's going to win Iowa or the nomination, but I'm saying it's a very fluid field right now. And there are three people trying to walk through the same door out of Iowa: Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and Pete Buttigieg. That's why they were going after each other at the debate this week.
And Senator Warren, for months, has often stayed in her lane, focused on her message, yet took on Mayor Buttigieg. Why did she do that, and where is she in this race?
Well, I think, she went through, we saw her poll numbers really nosedive when she was caught up on the healthcare issue and really got down a rabbit hole that she had a hard time getting out of. But what she's realized, and I think you see it also where she's been on the stump attacking Mike Bloomberg very aggressively, she has realized that she can go back to that populist message that is about basically class warfare, and that is something that's a message that she's good at. That's a message that she's comfortable with, and it is a substantive message. It really is the backbone of her agenda, what she calls an anti-corruption agenda. It is very much about getting money out of politics. It is very much about, giving access to people who don't always have access to politicians. She talks about this selfie line. They're not really selfies. But
what do you mean they're not really selfies?
Because she's not taking them. It's a selfie if you take it. But the point being, she's trying to run a sort of left populist campaign, as is, by the way, Bernie Sanders. Let's not forget that he's still pretty high up there in the polls too.
That is so true. Senator Sanders, you look at almost every poll, he's up there, not necessarily leading, but is he a serious contender for this nomination came close to being he was a serious contender in 2016.
Well, he's certainly a contender, and certainly his supporters will let you know that they feel like he's not getting the attention that he deserves. I think we will have to see what happens in Iowa and whether he can pick up some momentum. I mean, he has momentum, but whether he'll be able to translate that into support where it matters in these caucuses and
when you look at that stage, and Senator Sanders talked about the issue of race, the Democratic Party facing a challenge when people of color are not making it on stage for the debate. How are they grappling with that in terms of the field?
I think it's a serious issue. And really, when they were asked about questions on race yesterday, I mean, you could tell, even with the questions when Sanders was asked about race, a lot of that he just kind of went back to, health care, and he's going to just work for everybody and make sure everybody gets a fair shake. I think, and he even said at one point, yes, I'm a white male. I think that messaging can be difficult if you're trying to reach out to your base and get your base energized, and a lot of your base is not white. And so I don't know that the Democrats have really figured out how to address that.
You mentioned Mayor Bloomberg. He wasn't on stage, but he is spending a boatload of money on television advertising, and he's inching up in national polling. Where is his campaign moving?
Bob, he's focused on the second round of voting. So you start in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, those first 4 early states. And Bloomberg is banking, literally, that he can spend money in the states to come after that. California, Texas, big states where it costs tens of millions of dollars to run a credible advertising campaign and clobber the field there, rack up delegates, and become a force by the time the convention rolls around. And one of the things he's banking on is that the field is still fluid coming out of those 4 early states. So you might have a Klobuchar win Iowa, you might have a Bernie Sanders win New Hampshire, you might have a Biden win South Carolina, and then who's the leader? Bloomberg comes in with his money.